The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, sorry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Newman, aka Good Logic. Hope you had a phenomenal 47 minutes since you last saw me. I hope it was like the best 47 minutes of your life. I hope it was great. 47 and a half minutes or so. Oh my God. This trial. Why do you guys love Murdaugh so much? Why? Someone tell me why. I have to know. I understand. We don't know. Did he kill him? Did not kill him? It's like a whole mystery. Who done it? Ooh, did he do it? Did he not do it? I don't know if he did it. No, you don't know if he did it. You're saying he did it. You're so sure beyond reasonable doubt. You're crazy. The state hasn't proven anything. It's a great opportunity. We can scream. We can yell. We can get angry at others. We can get frustrated. We can watch a judge and say, what? There's a lot you can do here. There's a lot. I get it. So we're doing it. I'm here for the people. The people say this is what we want. So try to fill that need. Nick Ricardo wisely got on a plane, said, I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with this. You guys handle this. Oh my God. What? No, that can't be. You can hear me. Stop it. Just stop it. I knew you guys are all sitting here just playing my mind. That was pretty good. Like my whole chat was going muted, boomer, muted. That's great. I love it. Okay, I have an exciting announcement. Before we start watching the show, I have an exciting announcement to make. My relationship with Rumble has reached a brand new level. Because what I say is, look, Rumble is investing into its tech. I'm going to start investing my efforts more toward Rumble. The love affair between me and Rumble is it's almost obnoxious. It's like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. That's my relationship with Rumble right now. It's gross. It's kind of gross in a really wonderful way. A really nice and wonderful way. In that I have taken such steps at this point, such level of investment, that I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out how to get rid of that G in the corner for good logic and get my face up there. And sure enough, you get my face. So now you know it's me, because no one else would be stupid enough to put that face in that corner. I get it. So there you go. Now you know for sure it's got to be good logic. So anyway, so to all you Rumble people here, I got they got the color names, they got the pop-out chat now. We have like a whole new level relationship. As soon as the pop-out chat, let me explain to you the greatness and necessity, which I never even really appreciated the significance of it until like all of a sudden I was able to pop out chats. If you're not familiar with it, if you're not familiar with the whole chatting system, so okay, you have your chat thing, whatever. I can only have so many windows open at once. But if you have smaller windows and they're fixated on what you need, like the chat, and you can just, the pop-out chat is little 3 buttons, the 3 dots they have on top, you press that and you can pop the chat out and make my own little column of Rumble chat, including Rumble rants or whatever idiocy is floating through your minds there. I don't mean idiocy in the classic sense of the word. I mean, Jerry, I mean idiocy in a good way. Whatever is floating through your minds, I can see it. It'll hit me like boom right away. So now I gotta figure out how to do that with locals. Because I got 3 chats to monitor. Now I can have basically I can watch my StreamYard which is my YouTube / what's his face feed, my YouTube and other feed. Was he sending me $99 through here? I'll drink to that. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why through here? You're funny, brother. You're really funny. Yeah, so I can, and as soon as, KX2 says, good to see you here, in a Rumble rant, I see it. If KX2 would ever say such a thing, I would see it like within seconds. And that's totally cool. Now no one but my adorable redheads in my locals chat feels at all ignored. So there you go. So I said, you know what? If they're going to invest the effort to, start fixing their stuff, making it better, giving us options, creators options to viably transition, I can be a trans Rumble creator. I will identify as a trans Rumble creator. That'd be funny. That'd be funny. All right. Anyway, so there you go. That's what I got. That's what I got. Okay. Anyway. You're not getting ignored the most anymore, Forsaken Roeth. You're not getting ignored the most anymore because now I see ya. I see y'all. I can watch both of them at the same time, and it's glorious. It's beautiful. Oh my God, it's so good. I still can't pull up your chats. I think that's a long way away before I'll be able to pull up your chats. But Viola Pride sends me, $25 and says, although I'm a digger, I prefer to listen and watch on Rumble. YouTube sucks. I feel you. I definitely feel you. Real Hydro PX says, can you read Nick's defamation case? Explain what's going on and what's the next thing to come. Really? Didn't he do that? Didn't he spend like 3 hours doing that? He spent like 3 hours doing that. Why would I read his case? Why would I milk his grift? Why? Why would I do that? Get Mark Randazzo all mad at me? I don't care about that. But like... Point mic at face, sound comes out yo face. Are you trying to say I'm doing it better now with it pointed at my face? Or you want it like directly at here? Because I thought you told me, you were the one who told me, not this way with this kind of mic. I should be coming across the mic. Now you're sending me super chats, yeah. Don't turn neck, turn mic. I'm not. All right, whatever. Okay. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I'm not trying to milk. I'm not trying to milk his thing there. I don't think it's that exciting a thing. I don't think it's that exciting a thing. I know that he said some funny things, and seeing it written in a complaint made me laugh, like hearing him read it aloud. He's like, just the idea that he's being sued for various specific statements that he made. It's pretty funny. Pretty funny. All I'll tell you is this. I will tell you is this. It's very simple. Look. This is the way, not across the mic, never. Now I'm curious. Now I want to hear what I sound like. Is this why everyone said that my sound was terrible? I don't know what's happening. All right. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. I don't know. Lesko thinks that he's going to send me. I don't know what he's doing. Let me check. Make sure he didn't hit me up on Venmo, because that's possible. It's very possible he did that. And his agenda to make me a drunk lawyer and turn me into Nick Lucado. Let's share. I can share. I can do that. I can share my screen. Where are you at? There we go. Boom. Boom. Look how I even queued it up to the right place. That took work. Took effort. Took work and effort. We're ready to go. This is the cross of the timeline witness, which I believe was the last witness that the state came forward. Okay, I have a better mic. It's here. I have to get it fixed. I spent like $400 on that mic. This is like $100 mic. I have a better mic. It's still under warranty. Gosh. I think something interesting that people aren't talking about is how much micromanagement by the Attorney General of South Carolina is seen in the trial. He's that bald guy in the middle of the prosecution table. Is he? That's why we see that bald guy there the whole time? He's the Attorney General? That's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. That's actually pretty freaking hilarious. Okay, let's get to work. We're up to the cross. What?
Jury is present, sir.
All right, thank you. Welcome back.
Jury is...
Cross-examination. Mr. Barber.
Please report. Good afternoon, Agent Rudofsky.
Good
Say
afternoon.
that right?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Let's start first with the GM data that recently came in. I think that may have made things a little more clear, right? We don't really need to look at a lot of those cell phone tower plots now that we have the exact position of the car, do we?
I agree, yeah. The GM data is pretty clear.
Don't really. At first, you did an analysis of driving to and from the office in Hampton in the middle of the day. Not too interested in that, but let's skip to the drive from Moselle to Alameda.
Okay.
How long was that drive? How long did it take him from start to
So
finish?
I'd have to look back to drive. So you're referring to the 9:06 time?
Yes,
this.
sir.
I like this better. I'm so vain, I probably think this stream is about me.
So it looks like 9:07. To 9:22, so about 15 minutes.
And do you need, is it more like 16 minutes? Do you
16
need a
minutes,
pen and
yeah.
paper? 16 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. And coming back, how long was it?
Nine 9:43.
I hear you. And I see you.
About 18 minutes,
18 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
approximately.
So the top speed and the way back we saw was a little faster, but it actually took a little longer to make the return trip. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
All right. Now, if you missed
And
my
you're referring
coverage,
to the same drive to Alameda and back? Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Are you aware that,
I had a whole brilliant theory as to how they should cross, which I was told they didn't use. Oh yeah, I remember. Lock him into the whole footstep thing. Lock him into it. Lock him into the footstep thing. Make him get married to that position. That's what I wanted to see him do. Marry that position. Where you love that position and you're swearing that how reliable it is, and then just jam. Like switch it up on him and like, oh, okay, so if we can rely on this, then we know that Maggie's was going 50 steps while his was going 200 steps, 280 steps. Clearly, someone else was holding her phone. Bum, bum, bum. But first you need to actually walk him into that position where he's selling to the jury that they should believe in this testimony, that all his stuff that he said about the steps is so spot on. That's what I wanted to see from this jury. I feel like I'm at church with that bad mic. Stop it. Just stop it. Okay, now I'm being trolled. Now I'm being freaking trolled. Just stop it. It's not that bad. No. I don't trust you guys. I don't trust you guys. All right. Well, let's see what they did here.
Senior Special Agent David Owen did a test drive from Alameda to Moselle on January 3rd of this year.
That's correct. I was in the passenger seat of that.
And how long did that take?
I would have to see the data. I don't remember.
You don't have that? You don't know if it was 17 minutes and 35 seconds?
Oh my gosh.
If I was presented with something, it could be, but I do not have that number in front of me.
If it were that, it would be right in between those two times that we just saw for Mr. Murdaugh going back and forth, would it not?
It could, but there was different variables at the time.
It was during the day, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
So you just decided to drive whatever speed you drove, and now you're telling us that that's a normal speed because that's what you sled decided.
So
to
on
drive.
this way back,
Okay.
there's that little 80-mile-an-hour spurt. How long did that go on?
I am unsure of that. It's just the data point is plotted. It doesn't give a. It just gives you a timestamp. It doesn't
You're-
say for how long.
You're unsure? How can you
In
not
your
know how
experience,
long?
I think you talked earlier that you would respond to calls.
Somehow, our expert knows that was for 3 seconds or less that he crossed the 80-mile-an-hour threshold, but you're unsure. I can't tell. I don't know. Why should I know that? This guy's reminding me of like what's that video channel with that guy, pitch meetings, the guy who does pitch meetings, and it's like all of a sudden, like, you know, when he gets asked, oh, okay, great, so why wouldn't they just use the time turner to fix that whole thing? I don't know.
In a marked car with blue lights.
Not a marked car, but a marked car with blue lights. Yep.
Is it extremely unusual for someone who's on a straightaway in a rural road at night to give it some gas on a little burst?
A little bit of gas, but when you know it's 55 and you have deer and other environmental factors that play in.
Yes, but it's not that unusual, is it, for someone to give it a little gas on a straightaway in a rural road?
It depends on what a little gas is.
I'll take that as a yes.
But
thank
the
you.
overall speed that he went to get
hit
from,
the pussy for
from
me.
where he was going, coming from to where he's going
With a
to,
little thumbs up.
as far as you know, is in
Check.
line with the test drive that you were in the passenger seat for?
If that is correct, what you mentioned, yes.
It's like right in between those two, actually.
Like I said, I don't have that test drive data in front of me, but
Let's move on then to when he drove past that point where Maggie's cell phone was later recovered. And I think that may start on slide 23.
23?
Actually, if you go back one slide. Right. So we're in slide 22, sorry.
22? Okay,
So he's going 37.2 miles an hour here.
that's correct.
The next slide. Now he's still approaching it at 42, so he's accelerating gently. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Next slide. Looks like he is just past it, going slightly faster than he was on the previous slide. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Next slide. He's continuing to, now he's a good bit down the road there at 45, but
I
is it
just
fair
want
to
to
say?
point, I want to point out one thing here that's important for us to remember. He's the one calling Maggie's phone at this time that it's getting its last flip up in the air. This is the 58. This is the 58. This is the 58. Now what? Sorry, that was for Joe's sound guy. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's happening that you all need to appreciate. Alex is calling. That mic is dead? You're not hearing that. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay. All right. Let's do this. You want to do this? You're not using the 58. I'm not using the 58. Okay. It looks like it's on. All right. Tell me if I'm using it now. Am I using it now? The mic was picking up my why would you call it that typewriter? It picked it up now? Is it better? All right. Money and time equals crap if states wants you. That's true. All right. Now you hear this? All right. Whatever. People saying I sound fine. People saying I sound fine. I sound fine. I sound fine. This is the point I wanted to make. Think about this. All right. Just Review is now really messing with me. Okay. Now you're not using that mic. Type it harder. Understand, he's in his car. He's driving. It's nighttime. It's after sunset. He is calling his wife's cell phone. The state wants us to believe that he is driving, accelerating. You can't hear the typing of the mic? Oh, that should not be. Oh, here we go. Tap, tap, tap. Microphone, USB, audio device, virtual audio device. All right, give me a second here. Now I'm getting all bothered. Test, test, test. Is that better? I think that's better. It's not going to take me 8 hours. I think that's better. I think I fixed it. Finally. Way better. Much better. Oh, so much better. I got people in the chat who are like basically like so excited. Okay. If you're happy, I'm happy. I aim to please. All right. Here's the. We can hear you, but got buzzed. This is better. Okay, good. And Emerson, don't forget the hogs. He's having to dodge when he's driving, calling his wife. Just saying. This is the point. This is what they're trying to say. They're trying to claim. They're trying to claim that this guy is hitting the gas, accelerating, while calling his wife, while taking the other phone and tossing it out the window. Even if he's going to do that, even if he's going to call and toss it away at the same time, would he really be accelerating at that moment? I mean, that's a lot of things. He's pressing on the gas while calling, and tossing. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot happening while he's building up speed. It's just very strange. Is it possible? I guess. It just seems like a lot of work. Seems like a lot of work. Just saying. Thank you so much, Joseph. I really appreciate your help. Seriously. He has been my audio guy for like 2 years now. I try on audio and because I love. I don't get upset. As I'm pretty sure you all realize. All right, let's get back to work here.
He's continuing a fairly gentle acceleration.
I would say so, yes.
So what we saw as he passed it, he did not slow down and speed up as he went past that point. He continued his same gentle acceleration.
Per the data, yes.
And we won't go through it, but if we went down later to when it goes down to the bottom of the screen, it would show that he slowed down slightly, corresponding when he sent that text, go to see him, be right back. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. We'll be done with that. I'm going to now just skip with this data all the way to when he approaches the kennel coming from the house right before he calls 911.
Okay.
The direction he is driving as he comes right up, right before he parks, would he be illuminating the bodies of Maggie and Paul?
Per the aerial that I'm looking, I don't know if you want to put it on the screen so we can show, but per the aerial, it would be coming around that curve and it would illuminate at least Maggie's body.
Would the illumination, is it going back towards that space between the barn and the kennels where Paul's body was out?
Like I said, this is just a data plot.
But you could determine that, could you not, from just the last 2 points, because that would show you the direction that the vehicle is pointed.
It doesn't say the vehicle pointed that direction, it just says that's
But
where
if
the
it moved
vehicle's
from
at.
point A to point B, being a car, it would have to be
Yeah,
in
but
that
where
direction.
where it final rests, I don't know which direction it's
But
pointing.
as it's moving,
As it's moving, yes, you would think it would go
right,
that
so,
direction.
so the headlight's certainly on Maggie, it would appear from the plot maybe on Paul as well. And does he park,
So those of you who may recall, I myself asked a question. And my question was, I don't understand. That's really fast. Dude, I'm not doing 10 now. I have to stream at 9:30 in the morning. I'm not doing 10 now. I'm not doing 10. I can't do that. I have to stream in the morning. Let me explain something to you. You guys. This guy, I know he's good for it. I could start pre-gaming, but I'm just saying, like, when we were doing our little thing last summer, because back last summer, my friend here, Let's Go Brandon, was like hitting me with like 16 shots at a night. It would take me like, 18 hours to recover from it. I would stay up for like 3 hours to make sure that I wouldn't retch. This is really what I did. I'll share with you. I don't think I even told you this, brother. When I would finish my stream, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and stay up till like 6, do my morning prayers, and then sleep till like 4 in the afternoon, prep my show, and start all over again. And I was doing that for like a week straight as we did this little drinking dance. But it's like, I can't do that. I can't do that tomorrow. I got to be streaming tomorrow. So like, I can't do that. So any other time, yeah. When we get a verdict, yeah. Because I know I don't have to work the next day. Okay, Nick takes over. When Nick comes back, if we're still on like jury watch, yeah. Tonight, this week, I can't do that, my brother. I gotta be here and be responsible for like a bunch of folks. So, what's the last time my wife's phone movement compared to his car? I think it was like 9:06 and something seconds. Then he was driving at this time. They're saying while he was driving, he tossed it out the window. So,
does he park near Maggie's body?
I do not know where he parked the first time, because all we have is when the deputies arrived the second time. So
On your plot,
on the plot here,
when he comes the first time before the 911 call, where does his vehicle stop in relation to Maggie's body?
it stops before it.
How close is it?
I do not have a.
Descriptive, is it very close? Is it pretty much right there?
I wouldn't say it's right on top of it, but it's
Very
it's in
close.
the area.
So as he's pulling up to the scene, he can certainly see one, if not both, bodies on the ground, and he stops right next to Maggie. Is that fair?
I'm just looking at the data provided. I was not
either to celebrate justice or to cry about its demise.
there on scene. I
The
don't know
data
what he- I
provided
don't
is
know
the
what he
location of
saw.
the car and the location of the body.
But I don't know
correct?
what he would have saw or what the car would have saw at that time.
You don't know what would be directly in front of his car as it was moving from point to point to point?
I was not out there.
You don't know which direction the car would be pointing as it moved
We know
from
which direction the
point
car
to
would be
point to point?
pointing, but what he saw or what the final
Well,
rest
he's
of
Very shifty. He's very shifty. He's like, I can't tell you, even though I can tell you exactly where the car is headed and what direction it's going, I can't tell you where the headlights are going. It's like, it's very, very shifty.
You saw
Cars.
is the
Very
car's
dodgy.
headlights pointing at the
Very
bodies
dodgy.
as he's pulling up?
I cannot give a definitive answer on
You're
that
very
because I was
dodgy.
not there, and the data I have.
I'm asking from the data.
The
Obviously,
data
you
does
weren't
not
there.
say.
What he should say, a smart answer, is with respect to the headlights, what it's flashing on, it's hard to know because it depends on if like it's going up or down or whatever. The car like could be angled up or down, going over. So if it's off flashing on it for like a second, and tell me what he was able to see is almost impossible because, you know, if he hits a little bump, so also lights are going up instead of down at the ground where she's laying there. Does time of toss line up with phone last movement? Yes, it does. They actually believe that they believe that like at 9:06 or so, when it had its last thing, the state would have you believe that he was chucking it out the window and accelerating and calling it. It's a lot of hands. It's a lot of hands. I don't know. That's what they would have us believe. It's a lot of hands.
But you must give the witness an opportunity to respond fully. You may proceed.
There is no data that says that the headlights were pointing in a specific direction or at a specific object, so I cannot answer that.
When you say there's no-
I guess he can be holding two phones, call one with the other, put the one down, and toss out. I guess he could do that, you know, because from the time you press send a call until you throw it out, until it connects, especially in his spotty reception area, could take like a good, 2 seconds or so sometimes. We've all seen that. It doesn't ring as soon as you press send on a telephone, on a cell phone. When you press send, it doesn't just ring right away. It takes a second to start connecting. So I guess in theory, and it could have rang like 3 or 4 times. I don't know. The 50 steps thing to me, that he's going 280 steps and Maggie's is recording going 50 steps, to me, that's lethal for the state. That's almost telling us it cannot be Alex. Almost as much as the height thing. The two things, anyone who asks you why it is that you question the state's case, the two things I would point to right away is the step information is totally inconsistent with each other. He's walking 280 steps with his phone at a time that Maggie's is going 50 steps. That doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at all. And the other thing is, forget about the toss phone, he could do that, whatever. And the other is the height, based on this other person there. But that's the state's own, this is the state's own witness. His testimony tells me Alex did not do this. I'm not seeing that timeline up yet. I don't know.
No data saying the headlights are pointing in a specific direction. Were they not pointed along the line that would connect the last 2 data points before the car stops and goes in the park?
For the drive, but it does not show, it could be at an angle. It's such a little dot, but does not show a vehicle in exact position of it, so I cannot answer that.
Right, and we're not talking about the dot, we're talking about a line connecting 2 dots.
Okay, but
and
you
a
were
car
asking about
moving
the
along
dot.
that line. The headlines will be pointed down the line, correct?
Objection's overruled.
He has an answer. He
Ask
said he
your question
can't
again.
We're talking not about a point, but about a line, and
Mm-hmm.
a car moving down a line. As it moves down that line between 2 points, would its headlights not be pointed in the same direction down that line?
I would assume.
So he arrives at the scene, he gets out, presumably he goes in the park, and then 20 seconds later, first dials 911. Is that your testimony?
Yep.
So pulling up on the scene, body's in his headlight, presumably knows something's horribly wrong, gets out, 20 seconds to the first call to 911. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which was actually misdialed 9111, and he had to redial it a second time, which was at 18 seconds. Correct?
That's correct.
So he had 20 seconds, and I think there's maybe an implication, or that's not enough time.
Objection is sustained to the comment of counsel.
Sir, may I approach? Is this timer set for 20 seconds?
It is.
Okay. When I say so, would you please press the start button?
Okay.
Now.
Your much better mic is about 50% the volume of the trial you're playing.
That was 20 seconds. Would you agree?
All right.
Per your phone, yes.
Tell me if that's better, because I pressed the
phone.
button.
I do not.
I think it's supposed to amp it. Tell me if that changes the volume level.
If the person getting out of the car had seen the bodies already and already knew something is horribly wrong, do you believe that that is an unreasonably short period of time to inspect and call 911?
I'm here to testify on this data, not the hypothetical. I think you're asking the wrong person on that.
Fair enough. We'll move on. Okay, I'm going to turn to your condensed timeline,
Okay.
which I think is State's Exhibit 519. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 21.
Okay.
And towards the bottom, 9:06 and 20 seconds, it says Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone sideways orientation,
That is correct.
and meaning that her phone at that time went to a sideways orientation.
So between 9:06:12 and 9:06:20, from the phone experts, that it started at 9:06:12 and it ended at 9:06:20.
Okay,
Those
but
two orientations.
I'll ask it this way.
Okay.
A second later, what would be the orientation of her phone?
From a second from what? The 20?
After that, yes, at 9:06:21.
I do not know.
Well, then what does this entry mean?
the hell?
If it doesn't mean that it,
There's nothing that says 9:06:21 on here.
right, so what happened at 9:06 and 20 seconds?
It finished its orientation change to sideways.
What does that mean?
So it went from a portrait. So let me get the phone. So it went from portrait to sideways.
Lance,
And until,
In those, between the,
Go ahead, sorry.
between 9:06:12 and 9:06:20, that is what it's showing. That's why we have the little purple on the right-hand side to show that it's connected. It's all one big sequence, per our phone experts that had previously testified.
so it would remain in portrait until the next, remain in the landscape orientation until the next change?
I am unsure of that. I'm not a phone expert,
what
so
are
I am
you?
unsure of that. I was given this data, and this is how it was relayed to
You're not
me, and
an
this is how I
What?
have put it in this timeline.
Okay. So if you were to go to page 19, please,
Okay?
Maybe it's in diagonal mode.
and the very last entry
I
there,
don't know. No one knows.
Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone vertical orientation.
One of those
What does that
unorthodox diagonal modes.
So this was all given to me from different, data sources. So how I read this is that the phone has turned to a vertical orientation. So I guess
Has turned to a vertical orientation, and
because
just
we have a sideways orientation and then we have a vertical orientation.
just keep scanning.
Vertical, I assume, is portrait. I assume. This guy is so sneaky. You know what else makes no sense? I'm not inside the wire, but only 15 minutes away, and you haven't offered up a single cocktail yet. Shame. I'd meet you for a drink. For sure. Why not? Are you kidding me? I would totally meet you for a drink, brother. You don't strike me as the type who would who's looking to murder me. So yeah, why wouldn't I meet you for a drink? I'm old. I've looked down to find something in my hand. He calls, other phone rings. I'm old. I've looked down to find something in my hand. He calls, other phone rings. Look down to realize it's in his hand. I can see it. Okay. There's a lot happening there while he's accelerating. Love how much comment a counsel is allowed. Yeah. Well, no one told me if my mic sound is louder or... Joe, fix your mic or lower the video volume. All right. I will jack myself up because that's what I do. That should be a little louder. Is that better? Are you all happy now?
Down until you get to the next orientation change for Maggie Murdaugh's phone, please.
From page 19?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're just looking for the next orientation change.
I believe it's going to be that 90612.
And what does that say?
Implements an orientation change to portrait.
But the previous change was to portrait, was it not?
That's what that last comment super chat seemed to be implying.
It says vertical orientation.
He realized he had
So
a...
there's no intervening orientation change. It just goes to portrait and then changes to portrait again?
As I read the data, yes, that's correct. Like I said, I'm not a phone expert. I was given these different pieces to plot, and this is how they've been plotted.
When you're giving these pieces to plot, do you ever notice if things don't seem to make sense or don't match with other data? Do you alert anyone?
So we have phone experts that review that. So they have reviewed the data, and I do not know if that's something that they came across.
You sound so slimy, brother. You sound completely slimy. Like.
And you can't tell me with that last, or can you tell me this? The last orientation change here on page 21, is that the last
If you
change
have a
on her
case,
phone
just tell us
until
what
the
the case
extraction
is.
at the
Should be
SLED
ducking
lab?
around like you're
I'd
so
have
evasive,
to
like
go through.
you're being busted
double check.
cheating on your
Would you like me to
taxes
do
or
that?
something.
You may.
Okay.
It wasn't a real payment. There were expenses. My accountant took care of it. Other people know. Just
You
sounds.
said orientation change, correct?
Yes, sir.
Flip. See, I feel like I can't talk this much if there are other people who are on my panel. Even when I'm hosting, I'm much more muted when there are other people. A part of me really likes being able to talk as much as I'm talking now. Because I feel like if I start doing that, other people will start doing it also. And then no one's going to hear anything happening in the trial. So I'm sort of like... While I'm filling in for Nick,
Per this condensed timeline, you are correct. That would be the last orientation change that I see noted.
while I'm filling in for him, I don't want
That's the last one
I
until
just
the
don't want to
phone
keep it as
was
much like his
downloaded.
panel thing that he has.
I believe so.
'Cause that's what people are looking for.
You showed State's Exhibit.
That would, now the thing is, this is just the timeline, so it could be in what's already in evidence from Lieutenant Britt Dove, but in this timeline, that is the only one showing.
Okay.
And for orientation changes, we were really only concerned for the day of,
Right.
for this timeline.
Show what's been previously admitted as Defense Exhibit 38. And go to the last page.
Is that good now? Are we good now?
This was previously admitted in evidence during the examination of Lieutenant Dove. It's a complete list of every orientation change recorded on her phone as of the extract. Is the last one listed, the very last one, the 906 orientation change?
Oh, I love. By the way, I want to be
906.2
clear.
bottom.
Yes, sir.
I like my
That's
panelists. I like them as people.
The
And
906
and they're smart.
Yep.
It's just a matter of keeping like
The far
healthy
bottom
levels
column.
of chat.
Yes. It would show State's Exhibit 278.
It's not like there's any polite way to turn it off and on.
you know, and I'm so flighty about
This
it
was
myself as
also
to what mood
admitted
I'm
at
looking for.
examination. This is a photo taken in the SLED lab before the extract, actually 5 days before the extract. This phone is in portrait mode, is it not?
The way I read it, yes, that is portrait mode.
So that very last orientation change we saw was to portrait mode, because there are no subsequent orientation changes,
I assume so, yes.
and not landscape as it says on this.
Oh,
The
so
thing
your
is,
records
before this picture was taken,
suck.
you have to remind yourself that, you know, SLED got the phone, and then this photo was taken at a lab,
Yes.
so I don't know. I don't know what happened.
It could have
People, you know,
changed
it's been moving around,
time.
manipulated. I don't.
But we just looked at a complete list of all the orientation changes, did we not? It wasn't time limited to a particular day, it's everything on the phone.
Like I said, I did not produce that document, so I'm gonna have to go on your word on that.
So
Let me ask this before we kind of move on from this.
basically, your records kind of don't really fit with what we see are the facts. Okay, you go, expert.
It's been stated a few times in testimony, and I think you did as well, that you don't get an orientation change recorded from the screen. So my screen is off. If I turn it, like to get an orientation change, and it's off, if I just stand here for a while, however long, an hour, and without moving the phone, turn the screen on, will there be an orientation change?
No,
That is a technical question for an expert that we had up here yesterday.
I've seen this. If your phone is black, this is my experience. Tell me if you guys have different experience. I use Samsung Galaxy. I don't use an iPhone. That might be different. I don't know what type of phone she had. If your phone is black and it's in dark, you know, it's in blackout, it's in that blackout mode, and it went to blackout mode while it was in portrait. You turn it sideways and you wait a minute, and then you make it light up. It will start for a quarter of a second in portrait and flip over quickly to landscape. That's been my experience. So the only way it flips over is when it's, you know, an active kind of mode.
That I am not an expert, and I am not a phone expert. So that's not a-
Where I'm going with that is simply, you don't know yourself in preparing this timeline whether the orientation changes that you're putting on here correspond with movement of the
Yes,
phone.
that's exactly what I meant.
I do not. I'm going off of data I was given from phone experts that gave me the data, and it's been put on this timeline.
So why were you testifying about all this if you don't know what the hell you're talking about? This is like exposing. Is so ridiculous. He comes in here saying he knows all this stuff when really he's just repeating what other people have already testified about, and now that's bolstering. When you're if someone else, an expert, says something and I just repeat it, that's bolstering. And he just is admitting now, I don't know what the hell I'm even reading to you. I'm just reading. I'm the professional reader. I read without making mistakes. I'm not dyslexic. That's his main qualification. He's not dyslexic. The D's don't look like P's or B's. They look like D's to him. So when he's reading it, he's going to read the right. Why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you here? This is a joke.
I want to turn now to the timeline and really focus on the timeline for Maggie Murdaugh.
That's pretty funny.
And I'm going to skip, kind of close to the time
pretty
that we're.
Are you still on the condensed or the full?
I'm going to be on the condensed the entire
Okay.
time. I'm not going to refer to the other one. And I want to start on page 7. I have some screen off on times
I'm
here,
not
but you
doing
didn't
this
put
jump
every
thing.
time the
That's-
screen went on and off.
That's
did you?
long cock being.
I do not recall. I'd have to look at what was given.
So you don't know if the screen of her screen went off at 8:49:28, came back on. at
Everything
8:50.
should be on this document.
Okay. Did her screen go off at 8:49:28 and come back on at 8:53:08?
I have a screen on at 8:49:20.
And when did it go off?
I do not see it on here.
Well, let me ask it this way. Do you know that whether the screen went off at 8:49:28 and came back on at 8:53:08?
I do not unless I have it on here.
And then she has steps that begin at 8:53:15. Is that correct?
For this
Yep.
document,
That's
yes.
the way it's been.
When you were looking at the step data, did you look at the corresponding distance data that goes to the step data?
I was just provided the timestamp and then the steps.
Are you aware that the phone in the same database keeps distance data with the step data?
I have been made aware of that.
But you have not looked at any of that distance data?
I was told that it's not accurate, it's not reliable, the distance, so I did not focus in on that.
I've seen a few people outraged about this, saying, can't believe I just watched Hapulian point that gun at the prosecutor table and say tempting when questioning a witness on the stand. I mean, I can't believe that he did that in the sense that if he didn't get the reaction that he got, he could have gotten a terrible, terrible reaction and made things really bad. Well, we're all sitting here watching this on video. He's there in the room. The reaction of the room, to me, it's almost like, would I have done that? No. I think it's kind of stupid. But him making that joke and everyone laughing, like the joke landed. It's almost like when people, this take that you're expressing, Lisa, and I understand your take, but this take is almost like when people get offended for others. It's like no one there was bothered by it. We're watching and being like, oh, and so now that makes it wrong. He understands his environment in the sense that he read the room right. Eddie Murphy once said that when he's trying to gauge whether a joke is too far, he's like, when do you know that your joke is too far? He's like, when the room doesn't laugh. That's the line. That's how you know what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. So would I have recommended that he say or make that joke? Nope. Or pointed at the prosecutor? Nope. But the fact that he got the reaction he did, which was a very healthy dose of laughter throughout the room, to me says that, and he understands his situation, his environment, the room, the crowd, the nature of the people who are there. He read it right. So who are we to judge? That's my take on it. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Joe's channel, please do. He's doing the Lord's work, picking up where Nick left off. Love you, Joe. Thank you, Voyager. I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I'd really appreciate it. It's like I have, seriously, my main goal for this trial, not kidding you, is 10,000 subs on Rumble and 100,000 on YouTube. That's my main goal for this trial. 10,000, 100,000. And the numbers should pan out. Honestly, I expected to pick up more subs today than I did. It is what it is. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to cover the trial. It's tiring. So, and 100,000 is a real, it's a threshold that it's like, okay, that makes my channel feel like it's a different plateau. When you hit 100,000, it's like, it just feels like, okay, this is a channel that has staying power. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to explain it other than that. So that's why to me, and it's also, frankly, it's more marketable. I'm not going to get, I'm not even trying to get any sort of sponsorships until I hit 100,000. And sort of takes a lot of the load off as far as me hoping for grift. So court cannot secure a gun. Is this Rust set? It's secure. They give the attorneys wide latitude on how they handle guns, and presumably it's not loaded. And it's triple checked that it's not loaded.
So
sometimes you need to show the gun to the jury.
would you think that it is possibly, well, just as an investigator, on your spreadsheet, I won't bother to put it up, but you had a bunch of time periods where Alec had steps, different times. Do you think there would be any relevance to whether the number of feet per step and all those different increments was extremely consistent?
Oh, here we get to the steps. Let's do it.
Is there any relevance to it?
Would it maybe suggest the same person was walking?
Objections overruled.
I would have to, I didn't do the feet per step, so I'd have to see the data.
I understand that, and the
Yeah.
question is, would there be any relevance to an investigation to seeing that the feet per step were extremely consistent for
There's one consistent thing I'm getting out of this testimony. I'm the expert who knows nothing. I just know what's said on the paper. You ask me about the phone orientation, I don't know. What makes it change? I don't know. Why does it look different? I don't know. You finish off saying it's going to be over here in landscape, and sure enough in the picture that we got here, it's in portrait as to where it finished up. I don't know. What's with the steps? I don't know. What makes you an expert? How are you why are you the expert sharing this? Like, I don't understand this. It's like, I don't know. I'm shifty. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like being here. I'm just the guy who reads a report that someone else made, and I'm trusting on this. So you all should trust in it too. This is a joke. This is a joke.
Barrett time periods of the same phone.
I said this was just a tool that we used. It could be. It just was not explored.
And if this time period, 8:53 with Maggie Murdaugh's steps to 8:55:32, if the distance covered in that time were short, meaning she was moving particularly slowly, could that have any relevance?
It depends, but that distance is, we're told, is highly inaccurate, and everything is an estimate. So even the steps, that's, we're told by the phone expert that's.
How is he more of an expert than a janitor that they just like picked up off? What makes you more of an expert? I don't understand this. He doesn't know what the lights and that. He doesn't know anything. What does he know? I don't understand this. Did they just like find someone who worked for SLED and say, "Hey, Larry, today's your day"? And he's like, "Oh man, okay, I'll read the report to the jury." Like, I don't understand this. This is so bad. This is really unprofessional.
It's an estimate. That's not an exact number. The same, I would assume, for the distance.
What does an estimate mean, though? Does that mean that it can be off by 10%?
So you don't think,
Could it be off by 50%?
you did not check to
Could
see
it be off by
if
75%?
the speed at which Maggie Murdaugh was moving on that very last increment. The last time the phone says she was ever walking, there was no how fast is she going, is she running, is she creeping? No one looked at that.
Objection, in fact, not in evidence.
It's supposed to be in evidence.
I did not look at that, no. I cannot say for anyone else.
He's asking why it's
And
not in
the
evidence.
same question for Alec
It's like,
Murdaugh.
objection, facts not in evidence. That's my question. Why doesn't it say how fast she was going? We know how fast Alec's going. He goes the whole miles per hour, steps per minute or whatever, and 70 steps per minute versus 24 steps per minute. Now you're saying objection, facts not in evidence. That's the problem. I wish he would have said that. I wish he would have turned to Creighton Waters and just been like, "That's my question. Thank you. You want to take over now? Why is it not in evidence? This should be here. You have in evidence all about Alex. Why don't we have in evidence anything about Maggie?" God, what a joke. This is so sad.
Anyone look for, I think you have, over 8 of these increments listed out.
You should.
Whether he was
My chat
going
is
particularly
singing.
fast, unusually fast for him,
Singing.
unusually
Stuff's
slow
happening
for
there
him,
as we
the
speak.
same speed he always goes. Did anyone look at that?
All we have here is
Gen
the
X
data
Boomer
that
there, spiritual
is on
healer.
that sheet.
Joe's sound guy triggered. This is Viola Pride's in there. Just
And you
stuff's
do
happening.
have these steps per minute, but do you have any data suggesting that within, and I'll pick one just to make the question simpler, Alec Murdaugh's first, well, I'll pick an even easier one, entry number 30,
Okay.
which is when he's at Alameda and then part of when he's leaving Alameda, is that correct?
They are.
That is correct, based by the time.
And it says 60 steps over almost, just a little short of 10 minutes.
I believe so, yep.
So, of course, it's slightly more than 6 steps per minute, which would be a step
correct.
every 10 seconds. So this time period is not saying that he's going that many steps per minute, right? It's saying he walked and then he didn't walk and he walked. Is that fair?
It's just giving us an analysis, a general overview of, our estimated steps that it gives us, and then estimated steps per minute. That's all it is. It's just a general.
Well, I'll just ask open-ended. Why is this last column steps per minute here? Why are you presenting this?
I don't know.
It's just another way to present the data.
So turning back to, I think we were on page 19.
Okay.
And Maggie Murdaugh's phone is walking. Now, we had from previous testimony an activation of the Siri user interface with the side button. Did you recall that from previous testimony?
I do not, but it could have been.
Okay, you don't recall previous testimony about that. We bring up Defense Exhibit 41.
Technically,
And there's a begin and end. It's all the same time there in the bottom couple rows. You can see 8:53:20. I don't know if this refreshes or if you recall, or if perhaps you know from experience that the Siri interface can be activated by squeezing and holding the right button on the phone. Do you know that?
I believe so if you have it, activated to do that.
So the phone's walking, it's in somebody's hand. Now, this is something that's not in your timeline, but again was certainly discussed with Lieutenant Dove. 8:54:32, the screen comes on, and a couple seconds later, there's a camera access. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay, and that's not on your timeline?
It is not.
Okay.
Why? I don't
Now,
know.
that came up in testimony with both experts, and I believe, do you recall Lieutenant Dove said that it was possible to find out what caused that, but he had not himself looked to see.
That's correct.
Why would we look and see
And
what's happening
I
during the
believe
last minutes of his
investigator,
life?
Grubb said he did not know
We never
why.
had a chance.
Is that correct?
I believe so.
But it's knowable, according to the previous testimony,
That's correct.
but no one's checked to see.
To my knowledge, no.
And then after that, there's some orientation changes, and then finally, the screen goes off, I believe, for an more extended period of time at 8:55:36. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I see a few
Now,
people
after
make
this
comment.
period,
This is the timeline guy. I'm just going to make this point. What makes someone a timeline guy? That he's just reading a report. You're correct, Holly. This is the timeline guy. I'm sure that's not his job title. It's like, oh, let's get timeline guy on it. No. He has a job. Like, what makes this guy more qualified to read this report, enter the report, and like, what is happening here? Put in someone who contributed to this timeline. Bring up your phone guy, have him go through that part of the timeline, bring one after the other, and go through your timeline. This is just ridiculous.
there's nothing else that happens with her phone other than missed calls and text, except that final orientation change. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Now, does that fact that we aren't seeing anything after 8:55:36, does that mean that she was dead at 8:55:36?
Like I said, this is just data that I plotted.
So the answer is no?
I don't
It
know
does
the
not mean
answer.
that?
I have to go by the data here, and there's no activity.
Right.
You can take that however you want, but there's no activity.
I mean, is it fair, and this isn't trying to be tricky, if use of the phone ceases as time goes on, it's more and more likely there's something to miss, right? The first second no
assume
one's
so,
using
yes.
the
Not
phone
happening.
is normal.
Not happening.
Someone
I
might
wish
usually
it
go,
was.
even
It's not.
Paul might go 5 minutes without using his phone, but as you keep going on, it gets a little more likely something's wrong, right? Is that fair?
I would say so.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, but
it's not an immediate thing that, well, the last,
Would you be able to finish the answer he started?
I apologize, Your Honor, I honestly thought he had finished.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Someone's got to be doing this.
So it wouldn't be fair to say that if the last usage was at some particular second, that the person was dead that second, right? It would create an inference that would increase in strength over time that no one's using the phone, something's wrong, right?
I can't answer that. I mean, I don't have the knowledge on that.
I just need to pause for 1 second. This guy behind the lawyer, you can't see my arrow. This guy here, I'm gonna make this bigger. I'm gonna make this much bigger so you guys can see. I'm gonna point to him with my with my arrow here. Okay, this guy here has been sitting here the whole trial, and he looks like he's a little manlet. You can't see it when I'm doing it like this. In the gray suit. So if you look, and with the dark beard in the first row, gray suit, dark beard in the first row. You see that guy there? You all see that guy? Every time I see him, I think of this actor from The Office, who's a friend of Ryan. I think he's in New York, whatever, and eventually he comes to Scranton office. This short little guy. And every time I see him, I think of that actor. And because that's a short little guy, I'm not even sure if this is a short little guy, but you know who I'm talking about. Those of you who are fans of The Office, definitely that Hobbit one. I think they even nicknamed him the Hobbit at one point. Yes, I think they nicknamed him the Hobbit. I don't remember the guy's real name, but he looks exactly like him. And every time I see him in the background there, I'm like, why is this guy sitting? Why is the Hobbit sitting there in the front row? Why is he sitting there? It's not Creed. No, it's Ryan's friend in New York. He's much younger. He's a third Creed's age or something like that. Who he goes like when Ryan goes clubbing, he's like hanging out with him. I think he's like 5'2" or something like that. Yeah, he's very short, and that's why today I was trying to remember the character's name or the act and look up the actor's name, so that when Sutton was on the stand today talking about how there's a 5'2" guy is the one who fired these shots, I was like, it's him! It's totally him! He's the guy! All right. I read Rumble all the time. Gosh, leave me alone. I'm reading it. I read it as much as I read everything. And you're right. I think it was Troy.
Do you recall in previous testimony that Special Agent Owen said with regard to Almeida and I think a blue raincoat?
Yes,
that it would
Dwight
take
wants to
this
know about
5
his
to 10
people.
minutes
Yes,
to dispose
that's right.
Of evidence already wrapped up from the. Do you recall that?
I do recall.
All right, now we got to find
So to
this.
be consistent with the data you have here, well, let me ask this: how long with the test drives was to drive from the kennels to the main house?
I know we did various ones. I'd have to look at the data. We did at various speeds. It was very
Minute,
short.
15 seconds?
That'd be a lot, I would say.
Okay. So, and we know that Alex's phone is at the house, right, from 8. It got left at the house. It's not going anywhere since it was at the house with the family.
I just show no activity on it.
Right.
You can assume it.
Okay.
But it started showing activity again at 9:02.
I have to
18
pause.
seconds.
I'm sorry.
That's when the steps start.
I'm sorry. You're going to indulge me here for
That's
a
correct.
second.
283
I have to pause
steps.
this.
So, from that 8.
Tell me I'm wrong. Just tell me I'm wrong. I defy you. Let me make this bigger. Tell me I'm wrong. Oh my God. The character's name is Troy Underbridge. I have to stop the screen. I have to share this. Because I'm totally... I nailed this. That's him. Tell me I'm wrong. Oh, just stop it. Just stop it. Oh my God. That's totally him. All right. I don't even care. I don't care that you guys are trolling me with this whole "you're wrong" thing, because you all know that this is spot on. This is totally spot on. Oh my God. Troy Underbridge. What's the actor's name? Is it Junior? Portrayed by Noel Peacock. That's who it is. It's Noel Peacock. All right. I feel better now. I got that out of my system. I had to get that out. I couldn't finish this stream tonight without getting that out of my system. Noel Peacock. He's the shooter. Right. Why did no one ask Buster if he recognized the raincoat? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. They're afraid. They're afraid he was going to say no. And just because he doesn't recognize the raincoat, that doesn't really help Alex, because he might not have just seen that raincoat.
55:36 to 9:02 with a minute and some seconds to get up to that house. You would have like 5 minutes if it were him to do everything and get back to the house in his house to the phone. 5 minutes.
I think you're missing that the phone was actually locked at 8:49 for Maggie's phone. So the 8:55:36 is just when the backlight is off, but her phone locks forever at 8:49.
But it's moving around, right, at 8:53. You didn't look at the speed at which it's moving, but that could tell us something. There's a Siri activation. Just asking my question, Your Honor.
What's the question?
Her phone is moving around starting at 8:53, comma. There's a Siri activation near the start of that time, comma, and then there's a camera activation during this time, and some orientation changes, and then it goes off. Is that all correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you don't know how fast the phone was moving during that period, but that is known, just no one has looked. Is that correct?
So everything is estimation with the phone. It does not track your exact, speed or distance or steps. It's all estimated. So exact numbers is unknown.
So we don't know anything, basically. I would throw at him point blank at this point, with him being so dodgy. How would you explain that Alex's phone is recording him walking 283 steps at a time that Maggie's is walking 54 steps? How does that work? How does that possibly work? And let him say, I don't know. Because this guy won't know the answer. He will not know the answer. He's already established he's an idiot or incompetent. Even if he's not stupid, in this area he's incompetent. No one has testified about the raincoat origin. Yeah. Good reason.
And you have,
Yeah, he did sell Ryan
I
the
assume
drugs.
from
That's
your
right,
testimony,
sport,
you
yeah.
don't know why someone would take Maggie's phone but not Paul's phone?
I would not know. I mean, I'm not there.
I mean,
I would not
given
know.
your job as a SLED agent, I mean, would the fact that the camera was, the phone was in someone's hand and it was attempted to take a picture, would that be an inference you could draw? as
He
to
never
why
said
that
it
phone was
attempted to
taken?
take a picture, from what I heard, but you'd have to ask a technical expert on exactly what that camera function was for.
Well, you see, the thing is that the technical experts, they're not going to say either, are they? It's some investigator is going to have to make some inferences from the data, and the question is it a fair inference that if the camera's in somebody's hand and they're trying to take a picture, that might be why the killers take that phone and not the phone that's in somebody's pocket?
So the way
Your Honor.
That question is, stop dodging. You have to make an inference at some point. They're not going to make the inference. That's your job as a cop.
Argumentative.
The response to, by the defense, any response?
Your Honor, I'm asking the investigator whether,
Response to the objection is argumentative.
Your Honor, I do not believe it's argumentative. I'm asking if an inference would be fair.
I overrule the objection.
So the inference I'm looking at it is that the camera was trying to identify a face to unlock, which it did not. So that is the inference that I would look at that instead of taking a photo, from a layperson perspective.
Right, except that's not an inference an investigator would make, correct? A technical expert would go and see what triggered the camera activation and tell that to an investigator, correct?
I was not, but I am not the technical person.
And I think we covered in some previous questioning that the testimony has been that that's knowable, but no one has checked.
So you failed to ask them to check
Kind
that.
of switch over to Paul.
Okay.
And just to sort of summarize everything up, there doesn't seem to be any missed activity until the unread text
Look
message
at that
from
frowny face of his. Look how he's like frozen there with his face like etched in a frown. He looks like so bitter. You have to see it in large because I don't know if you're seeing it as big as I am. Look at that. That. I can't even make my lips that way. I can't. This is something that bothers me. I can't do like a real frown. My best frown is just straight across. Some people have that, where it's like, that's as far as I get. If I like push up my lower lip, he's just like sitting resting face, like sitting there with his bitter, angry, eyes glaring, like I'm stuck here till you let me go, kind of thing happening.
Rogan at 8:45. I'm sorry, 8:49:35. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it correct that his screen does not ever come on again until after the 911 call?
Is screen coming on?
Yes, sir.
I believe it dies shortly after at like 10:30, I think 10:36.
And I'm aware of the screen
Okay.
coming on after the 911 call, but I'm asking, did it come on at any time between this text from Rogan and those after 10 o'clock times?
Let me just double check. I show a display screen on at 10:20:08.
Okay, so the answer is no?
It does turn on. That's what you asked, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking if it turns on before the 911
I have no
call.
idea how many texts
Before that
went
one.
in. I can only imagine.
For the whole day?
Well, it would be about an hour and
hour.
10 minutes, but
I'm not seeing a screen on before the 911 call. In that 9 to...
so
About that whole frown thing, I wondered if I spent like 5 years being utterly miserable, whether I would develop those muscles in my face, whether that would be developed enough. I just don't think it's worth the experiment.
text messages or calls, if they were received, did not cause the screen to come on.
That's correct.
Is it possible, and I understand this may be a question for a technical person, but is it possible that that's because the battery was at 2%?
Like I said, I would not know that answer.
Did anyone ask, hey, why isn't the screen coming on these notifications?
Fortunately, I think it's hard to tell, with the experts, but that would be my assumption that it would be either low battery,
That's-
trying to conserve the battery because you don't want the light takes so much power. So I would assume that would be the answer.
So after, whatever happened after 8:49, his phone is not prompting him. It's not lighting up when things come in.
I don't know if it's vibrating or whatnot, but according to the data here, it is, it's not lighting up.
Now, I think the previous testimony was that whoever, if anyone saw his lock screen before the phone went dead, after the 911 call, would have seen the yo text. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
They would have also seen this 8:49 text, right?
The 8:49,
35.
35.
Or at least a notification that there were multiple texts, correct?
I would assume
It's
so, that's
the
correct.
inability to
And
do something that
There
bothers
were
me.
at least 4 incoming calls from Rogan between 9:10 and 10:08. Is that correct?
I'm going to go off of your account.
9:10 and 28 seconds, 9:42 and 17 seconds. I think there's one at 9:57,
Okay.
one at 10:08.
Correct.
The one at 10:08, that would be during the 911 call, correct?
That is correct.
And that would be during the 911 call, before Alec Murdaugh leaves the scene to go up to the house and come back.
Based on the data, that's correct.
We don't actually know why the screen came on those 2 times, do we? At 9:10 and 18, and then 10, 18, and then 10:20.
We do not.
You know how long the screen stayed on those times?
I do not have that.
You don't know if it was 12 seconds? Okay.
There's a lot of I don't knows.
At the second one of those, the 10:20:08 screen on, doesn't Alex Murdaugh's phone indicate he's walking at that time?
So it, we have a start time and an end time. Doesn't mean he's walking during the whole time, but that is what the
Well, is
phone.
this the
that's
start? I'm sorry, let me just ask, is this the start? Your Honor, it's just a clarification.
Did you, as soon as the witness starts talking, then you start talking? Who's talking? Were you talking? Well, go ahead.
So the phone parses the data. It gives you a start time and an end time. Doesn't mean they're walking during that whole time. It just takes a start time and end time and gives you that data.
Sure.
So to say that someone's walking during the whole time would be, unreasonable.
After the 911 call, was Rogan the first person out that Murdaugh called?
Why would they be looking
After
to
the
do that?
911 call?
Yes, sir.
I don't understand why they
Calls
want
at
to do that.
10:06:14. That you said Alex called?
Yes, the
Oh, you're
first person
saying
he
the
called after
grandfathers.
hanging up with 911. Was it Rogan?
I have at 10:17:46, he calls Randy Murdaugh.
And that's his brother, correct?
That's correct.
Who was the second person he called?
Maybe it wasn't, though.
He iMessages Randy and then calls Randy Murdaugh again. And then John Marvin.
John Marvin is another brother,
Yep,
correct?
at 10:19.
And then the third person he calls is Rogan, is that correct?
At that time, yes.
And is that about 2 minutes and 30 seconds after that first screen on time?
That's correct.
Okay. So not immediate, not the first person.
I think you're referring to that question that was previously during the 911 call. This is all after the 911 call.
Right.
And
the
the job
question
done well.
is,
The reason I'm
it's about
covering
2.5
this is because
minutes.
I'm curious as to like how he broke him down. I mean, the timeline is everything for this for the state's case. So I want to see how effectively he broke him down, which so far he made him look fairly incompetent. So I'm just trying to see how strong the state's case is before they arrest him.
After Paul's phone screen comes on, that there's a call to Rogan, and it's the third person that Alec Murdaugh calls. Is that correct?
That was at 9:08, wasn't the screen on?
No, 10:18 and 53 seconds.
That'd be correct.
So I think we went over that anyone who was looking at could see what was on Paul's screen, would see multiple missed messages, calls from Rogan right on the screen.
I would assume.
Even a call coming in during the 911 call.
I would assume, but
Okay, so as an investigator, do you think it would be terribly unreasonable that after calling other family members, someone would call the person who is the best friend of the dead son, who had multiple missed messages and calls, and even a call coming in during the 911 call? Is calling that person to ask what happened, what's going on, is that, to you as an investigator, an unreasonable thing to do after calling other family members?
As an investigator, I think that would be very odd, given the scene and the whole situation, that you're on the phone constantly, yes.
That you're standing there next to your dead son, his phone is ringing for
Yep.
someone, and you call that person
What's
after
your
calling other
theory?
people?
Like,
Yes,
would be
because I
unreasonable.
am
As far as
standing
it being
over my son and
suspicious.
wife, and it's just witnessing that for the first time, I would think that would be,
But
to have someone on their phone
Rogan
constantly
said he
like
was
that.
like a family member.
Right after, given the scene and the situation, yes, as an investigator, I would think that is very,
It wouldn't be someone trying to find out what happened.
at that moment, that would be the last thing that would probably come through my mind as an investigator, looking at the scene, is trying to figure out what happened minutes after I discover it.
Yeah, I think that actually
I'd be
makes
in a
sense
state of
as
shock
an answer.
if that was me personally.
And speaking of a state of shock,
That was a bad question
I think you
That's a
have
bad question.
in the timeline later on.
and a great answer for the state because it just makes Alex look guilty, and you gave the investigator a chance to basically say that's what makes him look suspicious. So that was a bad question.
on
And great job
he
out of
reads
state.
some spam
Give
text
props
message
where they finally
I think
earn
there's
it.
a picture of a woman in a bikini.
I wouldn't call it a spam text message, it's from Michael Gunn, who'd be one of his friends.
group text?
A group text, yeah.
And then he Googles the name of a restaurant in Edisto Beach. Is that correct?
That is what comes up on his phone extraction.
Doesn't he also call a videographer he hadn't spoken to in years?
Can you give me a page number to refer to?
Yes. Page 42, Brian White, last entry.
That's what the data shows.
So he would seem to be in a state of shock. None of that makes any sense, does it? You're not going to Google the
I'm
name
not.
of a restaurant after you find your son
He's
murdered.
trying to
I'm not
fix
Alex
it.
Murdaugh, I
now.
don't know what he was thinking at that moment. Probably wouldn't be on my phone.
Really, you wouldn't be calling family?
I might call him family, but I wouldn't be
The
Googling
testimony
and
was
doing
that Rogan
stuff.
was family.
If you ask a question, if you want him to answer, you have to give him an opportunity to answer. Proceed.
That's
I
fine.
would not be Googling and doing other things with my phone, no.
You think he was, do you believe he was Googling a restaurant, or do you think he was fat fingering the phone because he was in shock?
I have to go off of the data, and that's what the data shows.
So you think he was looking up a restaurant? That's what
Do you
you're.
believe that calling family and calling someone that the prior testimony was like another son, is unreasonable in the circumstances.
I would say so, yes. Given the fact that you just arrived to the scene, yes.
Is it weird for him to call his brother? Is that weird? Because if he's like a son, then it's not weird for him to call that. Same way, is it weird for him to
had
call
just arrived
Buster?
back to the scene. It actually been there at that point, 15, 20, 25 minutes, correct?
That's correct. I'd be doing anything I could to help my loved ones.
Help them. They're dead. You just told them they're dead. And Rogan was one of his loved ones.
Now, kind of turning back to Maggie's phone, her screen was on at 9:06 and 12 seconds, right? That last orientation change.
Let me flip back to it. You said her screen was on?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Yeah, her phone was locked, but her screen, yeah, for the orientation from previous testimony, the screen had to be on for it to log the orientation changes.
So there was some movement of the phone between 9:06 and 12 seconds and 9:06 and 20 seconds.
That'd be my understanding given previous testimony, correct?
And in this period, 9:02 to 9:06 and 47 seconds, Alec Murdaugh is walking, I think, 283 steps in that time period.
In that timestamp period, correct?
Yeah. But her phone is not. No one's walking with her phone, correct?
The phone is not logging any kind of steps. I don't know if someone's walking with it, but it's not logging steps at that time.
But at that time, Alec Murdaugh's phone is logging steps.
Finally!
His phone's logging from 9:02:18 to 9:06:47.
Finally! Oh my God.
I believe her last log was in the 8 o'clock, the 8:53 to 8:55.
So you're sitting here telling us the step technology is sometimes logging, sometimes not logging. You don't know how fast he's going. And this is where I would just be peppering him with questions.
And at 9:06 and 14 or 15 seconds, Alec Murdaugh calls her phone, correct?
That's correct.
So he calls her phone while walking. We're in a period in which his steps are being
The
recorded.
reason I'm making a big stink about this is because this is tangible, visible evidence that helps exonerate him. There's very little of that. Very, very little of that. In fact, indeed, this might be the only physical evidence which actually really exonerates him. So that being the case, I would want the jury to be fixating on this and saying, we can't answer this. It doesn't make sense that he killed her because we cannot come to a logical answer for this question. I would be like, this would be like the dog on a bone. I'd be, just so the jury knows, wake up. Those of you who are sleeping, wake up. This is the whole case right here. Boom. The steps on the phone exonerate him. It cannot be him. I'll be pounding that.
Be specific.
There's a begin time and an end time. He could have stopped walking a couple seconds, couple minutes into it. It doesn't give us that precise data from these phone distractions.
And that time period that he stops walking is 9:06 and 47 seconds, correct? And the car, the Chevy Suburban, starts a second later after that, right?
From the data, correct.
So it's a fair inference that he ends that by walking to the car, getting in and turning it off.
I'm not sure when exactly he got in the car or how long he was sitting in the car before, but this is what the timestamps show, and this is what the vehicle start time shows, and the end time for the steps.
So his phone is stepping, walking, while he calls Maggie's phone, which is moving, but not stepping with him. Is that what the data shows?
That's your inference on the data, but
You're presenting
Well, I mean,
it as data that the jury should rely on. Why are you presenting this as data if you don't think it's reliable? So what else in this data is unreliable? This is why he's so boxed in here. There's no way the state can get around this problem. You spent hours presenting this as evidence of that the jury should understand as to timeline and fixation, and this is how we know it, and this is how we know it. When now you're telling us it's not reliable, you don't know, it can't, maybe it is. You need to be pounding the table on this. Like I would have my voice being raised. I would be like, oh my gosh. This would be like a Joe rant right here. where I would have to like dial it back to like, not so that it doesn't look like I'm going to physically attack him.
Breaking it down, his phone is in a period of steps, correct?
Unknown when there is steps
Just
during that
his
period.
phone is in this time period of steps, correct?
Correct.
Her phone is not in any period of steps, correct?
Correct.
Her phone in this time period where the phone call's coming in, 9:06, 12 seconds, 20 seconds, there's some motion because there's an orientation change, correct?
That's correct.
And he's calling the phone during this period that his phone's in steps, right, at that moment, right?
I cannot say that he's actually in steps at 9:06:12.
Yes,
And this is the other thing. There's a conflict.
There's this period that he's
Is he
walking. in
walking?
that
Is he
period,
driving when he calls
between
her?
the start and end times, he's calling her phone.
That is correct, but you can see during the 911 call too that there's times where someone could be stopped, someone could be walking, so we don't know if he stopped at 9:05:15. And the orientation
So
changes and he's
basically,
right
your
at the
entire
car.
report here
I
is
don't know that.
useless.
Do we know?
That's essentially what you're saying.
Do we have any evidence that her phone and his phone ever moved together? Not speculation, but evidence showing that they're moving together. Same person moving at the same time with both phones.
Moving together, like physically moving, or functioning in like,
As
Yes,
if one
that they're
person
both
was holding
moving.
it.
The same person is carrying both phones. They're moving at the
Thank
same
you.
time.
Yes.
I would argue that between 9:06:12 and 9:20, that the same person has both phones.
Because there's an orientation change and no steps on this phone.
You have an
No steps on this phone.
orientation change starting while someone's calling, looking at the phone during that time period.
And would it perhaps be reasonable that someone has that phone and an incoming call comes in, his screen says Alec Murdaugh, and he gets tossed out a window? Is that another fair possible explanation?
That could be your explanation.
Why would that explanation be less fair than what you just said, based on the data?
So how you interpret the data.
He didn't answer the question. Please answer the question. What part of the data leads you to say that your conclusion is more likely than mine?
On the drive to Alameda and back, did Alec
He's
take
not.
any detours?
He's not
from the
hitting
expected
him
route?
hard enough. He's
Not that I
asking
can
the
see.
right questions, but not. I want him to be like just driving this home much harder than he is.
The route matched up with his interviews.
And in your timeline, we occasionally see these, like this infotainment systems coming on, but nothing else happening. The prior testimony was that even the FBI engineer doesn't know why that is. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. He said it could be, you get close to the vehicle. Sometimes when I don't know if you newer GM vehicles, you get close to it and you can kind of hear a little buzzing noise. It's almost like the system's booting up. That's how he described it to me. Could be the key fob being closed. It could be the car unlocking, locking, door opening. Just they don't know what actually caused it, but it's just booting up and running in the background.
When you were looking at the sort of going in and out of park data, did you look at the data for other days than June 7th?
I did not.
So you wouldn't know whether on other days there are periods in which it seems to go in and out of park repeatedly in a short period of time?
I would not.
You wouldn't know if that happened on 6-4, 6-5, or also 6-6?
I would not
Ooh,
know.
this could be good
I was look-
exonerating evidence because if you're saying that he was hiding it and that he pulled over and left the car idling in park, you should be able to see that it's the gear shifted. I like that. State should be pounded on phone data not matching. I think I just said that. That was my point. Not just not like conflicting.
Focused in on June 7th, 2021.
Would looking at those other days and seeing the same thing happen inform your interpretation of seeing it going in and out of park on 6-7?
I was just looking on the day of the murders.
I mean, if it did that every single day, would it seem unusual to also do it on 6-7?
That'd be a question for Mr. Fakowski, who actually looks at
No,
that data.
that's not a question for Mr. Fakowski.
is.
Question.
That's a
It
question
would.
for an
He's going to make
investigator.
inferences about behavior.
You're
based on the
directing
data,
him
so
how to
he's gonna say
what
the data
question
is.
what to look at.
You can say what the data is, but I wouldn't know an inference. I don't know someone's driving pattern and how they shift, and how would I know that?
And he would?
How would I know that?
You ask him
Well,
to
the
look
question
into
really
it.
is, if it happens every day, is there anything unusual about it happening on 6-7?
A period of days is not every day. You'd have to look at I would assume a wide range of days to get.
How many? If it happened every day for the preceding 3 days, would that be enough?
Every day is a new day. I would not, something could happen different on a different day. I mean, I don't know how you could compare that data. You go different places, you
No
do
one can
different
figure
things.
out. How can we
Different
figure
things
out
happen
whether
during
this is
drives. I
some,
don't
whether
think you
something
could
is
accurately-
usual or not? How can anyone
Show
figure that
that.
out if something is usual? No one can figure that out. That's a mystery of life. Who's swallowing this? I want to know. Are there really people swallowing this? It's like, oh yeah, good answer. Good answer there, Larry. I don't even know that his name is Larry. I don't remember his name. He just looks like a Larry to me.
You showed sort of towards the end some text messages, and one of them seemed to
I still can't stop staring at the Hobbit behind the lawyer there.
make a reference regarding possible.
I've been staring at him for a
Remember
month
that?
now.
I do.
And that was dated May 6th.
Do you have a copy pulled out? Are you referring to the text from Paul
Yes, I am.
to Alex? Okay. I have May 6, 2021 at 10:52.
And then there was some Google searches by Maggie Murdaugh.
That is correct.
Are you aware of a text from Alec regarding pills to Maggie on May 7?
I would have to see the text.
Show you what's been marked as 138, which I believe.
Yep.
This face that I find myself
I'm
making
very
when
sorry
I glance at
that
myself
I do this
like
all you.
this.
I love you. Yep.
Like I smell vomit suddenly.
It's
the same face I made.
138.
So I made it.
Oh, Kevin McCarthy. No, that's not good. That was a bad one. That's not good. Oh, what are we looking at? Ooh. I'm very
So
sorry
this was,
that I did
Mr.
this to
Murdaugh's
you.
Response
Love
to
you.
being confronted about the pills that you previously read.
Oh,
I
on
can
May
only assume
7th.
This is from
Oh.
Alex to Maggie. The text message I read was from Paul to Alex.
On May 7th. Wow.
His family was
a
aware
full
of his
month
drug
earlier.
issues. Correct? I mean, from the texts.
I would assume from the text.
And he was aware that they were aware, correct?
Pathetic.
Correct.
And they appear to be loving
This
and
is so
supporting.
stupid.
Well, this is Alex to Maggie. If you read other text messages, she never responds to this that day, from what I saw. So I don't know,
So-
unless you have what she sent back, or if you can't ask them, I don't know if they were loving and supporting of it. This is from Alex to Maggie.
No, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to see further text messages.
Oh, nice. I thought Buster did well today.
Other questions, Your Honor?
Direct.
May it please the court.
We got a redirect too?
All right, we have the computer up. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, having go to the jury room for a short break.
All right, short break. Let me make sure I got all my super chats in here. Spirit Air is death. It's terrible. I actually made Lady Logic promise me she would never book a flight for me on Spirit Air, but I'm not going even if it was like if it was Concorde, I would not be going to Las Vegas. I'm a timeline guy. What time do you
That's for
have?
5 minutes.
What time do you have? Which way to the courthouse or something? I don't know. Mechanics. I'm just the expert. I can't answer that. Yeah, that's pretty much what we heard. And I will remind you, please subscribe. We're marching to 100,000, and you can be part of that. It's like slower than the March of Dimes, which I never really understood what the term March of Dimes really even meant. But I always imagined that was a pretty slow march. We don't need to watch this part, do we? Okay.
You could turn
Murdaugh's iPhone.
to page 18. Page 19, my apologies.
Okay.
From 853 to 855, what does the data reflect? Any steps logged on Maggie's phone?
Data reflects Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone shows 59 steps logged.
Can the data tell who was holding that phone during that time period?
It does not, no.
You could turn to page 39,
I would
please.
totally recross. with him going back to this thing, I pound this. Pound it.
At
So much good stuff to
10:20:08, what happens if anything on Paul's phone?
Paul's iPhone, it shows display on, screen auto lock.
Screen auto lock?
That is correct.
What is your understanding again of auto lock?
My understanding of auto lock, so the phone is already locked, but it's just an automatic feature that when the screen turns on, it just auto locks. It just logs it as auto locks even though it's already locked.
Night,
That if
Joe.
you're not
tomorrow.
recognizing the face?
Either a face or, pushing the button on the side, but yeah.
You would
What's the
think,
next
Star.
entry on your timeline
You would
after
think that's
that
how they establish a
screen on
pattern
auto
of
lock
behavior.
on Paul's phone at
But he suddenly
10:20:08?
forgot how it happens.
Very next entry at 10:21:25.
Alex calls Rogan. So at 10:20:08, we have that screen on, an auto lock, and at 10:21:25, Alex calls Rogan Gibson.
In preparing this timeline here today for the jury and for this investigation, what was your specific job with that timeline?
The specific job was just to take all the data that we collected throughout this whole investigation and put it in one concise document.
Synthesize it together in one timeline,
That is
You're
correct.
not
From
supposed to
multiple
know
sources.
anything.
From multiple sources.
provided to you by experts.
That is correct.
Thank you, Special Agent Dawson.
Anything further?
I think there was some a question was asked about peak speeds to and from Moselle. Did you look to see if he passed anyone on the way there or back?
When we passed anyone. Like a vehicle?
Yes, that his car passed another vehicle on a two-lane road.
I don't know how I'd be able to tell that, this data.
So you don't know if a very fast peak speed was simply gunning it past another car?
I do not. But at that late night hour, I would think that'd be, with, the area, not a lot of people out.
I mean, that's just total speculation. You don't know if there's another car. out
Just
there or
like
not.
yours is total speculation that he
Right.
passed someone.
don't
That'd be
know.
correct. Yep, I do not know.
Yeah. You don't know if there are any other cars out there to pass. You don't know if he was passing another car. You just don't know, do you?
I do not, just like with your first question.
And you also don't know why Paul's phone, the screen came on
think
those
it's
two
just like
times
this
at
part.
10:18 and 10:20, do you?
Go to the
Yeah, just
54
clean up.
steps or let it go. This is
That
bad.
second time that
It's
the
not
phone
good
came
for
on
things.
was at that moment, Alec was actually on the phone with John Marvin, correct?
At what time?
The second time that the phone came on, 10:20, and I believe it was 8 seconds.
So at 10:28 seconds, that's when we have the display on, and at 10:21:25, Alex calls Rogan
And
Gibson.
at 10, when the display comes on, at that very second, Alec Murdaugh was on the phone, his phone, with John Marvin, correct?
If you do the math, I believe so, correct.
And this was also during a period in which, according to his phone, he's walking around, though again, we don't know if he was walking that exact second. But it's during a period of steps,
During a
correct?
period, correct.
Walking around on the phone with John Marvin. No further questions, Your Honor.
Let me step down.
All right. Well, there we go. I don't really care about any other witnesses. I'm done with this. We're done. Okay. I'm busy prepping my new thing here. I'm busy prepping my new thing here. My new thumbnail for tomorrow. That's what I'm doing. I'm already working for it tomorrow. 9:30 tomorrow. We're back here. Day 2 of defense's case in chief. Till then, I thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry if I was a little tired. I'm plowing through. I feel bad because Nick isn't around, so I'm trying to sort of pick up the slack a little bit. I'm a little bit run down, but I'm going to keep plowing through. I hope y'all see you all tomorrow morning at 9:30. Till then, make sure you take care of yourselves. And as always, my friends, Godspeed.